So, Eric could not be here with us, so it's just me. I thought Prince was appropriate. I'm Cleve Mesidor. I'm an advisor for the Blockchain Association. The Blockchain Association represents 70 member companies. Some of them are here today. Previously, I served in the Obama administration. I also published a book about my experience in politics and crypto. So today we're going to talk about the future of work. Right. I'll start by going back to what brought me into this space. Decentralization is what I connected with. So, for a lot of people of color who have been locked out of the traditional financial system, decentralization diminishes the barriers to entry and gives us access to a new financial asset class. And that in itself is pretty revolutionary. Now, I hope you all have seen the data. Black, Latinx communities are driving mainstream adoption. So, while 11% of white Americans report owning cryptos, 23% of Black and Latinx communities own such assets. That tells us mainstream adoption is most possible in communities that have been locked out of the system. The industry has been working abroad, tackling financial inclusion. We know that across the world, 1.7 billion people lack access to the traditional financial system. They're either unbanked or underbanked. In the US, that estimation is about 55 million people. So while we've seen inroads on the continent of Africa and Latin America, in the Caribbean, we haven't seen much inroads in the Bronx, in El Paso, in Detroit, in Oakland. So why are the numbers so high for communities of color? Innovators of color in crypto have spent the last 5-8 years going into their community, bootstrapping, telling people about Bitcoin. And we know the results, 23% adoption. Now, there's a lot of skepticism about financial inclusion and what's possible. Here's what I try to tell people. The more options people have when it comes to money, the more inclusive money is. So we should not be taking away options from any groups. So, how do we inject blockchain and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin in this conversation about the future of work? We know we're heading into this fourth industrial revolution where emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, ML, machine learning, robotics, VR are changing and will continue to change the way we live, work, transact, and interact. So the future is changing. And there are so many people who are talking about UBI, Universal Basic Income. I think we should keep everything on the table, but I think we should focus on future of work strategies. And because we see so much support of cryptocurrencies in communities of color, therefore, we need to build a diverse workforce. So as many of you in this room are building, we will have a consumer base, a workforce, and creators to fuel the crypto economy. Now, there are some ways that we can do that. Financial literacy. We have to do more as an industry when it comes to education. There's so much work to be done. Skills training. It is so hard to find a developer. Oh my God. And who's training blockchain developers? Who's training the Bitcoin developers? Who is training the Ethereum developers? So we have to cast a wide net to make sure people have the skills for this industry. A few things have happened. COVID, we now have this thing being called the Great Resignation, where professionals are leaving their work, they're taking their body of work with them. Cryptocurrency and blockchain should be an option for them. We need to make sure that these professionals understand that the industry is hiring. We're hiring managers, executives, accountants, administrators. I work for the Blockchain Association. We represent 70-member companies. We have a job board. It is thousands. It's hard to fill these positions, so we have to do that hard work. And then, COVID, its biggest casualty, professional women. COVID drove women out of the workforce. So they have to make different choices. They have to look elsewhere to bring their body of work. So they're looking for more virtual options. So these are opportunities for the industry to look at professionals, to look at people who are not historically focusing on crypto, to do the recruiting so we can build a workforce. Now, I do have one thing I did want to share today with everyone. So there's been a lot of talk about paying people in crypto. We know how difficult that is, right? Even the mayor here in Miami, Mayor Suarez, said he wanted to get paid in Bitcoin. There's a challenge to that. They're making it work. The new mayor of New York City is facing that same challenge. So in the industry, we're in its infancy. Let's take our time. But we have options. Right now, people are getting their payroll direct deposit into non-bank account platforms. Oftentimes, people are perplexed about underserved or underrepresented communities buying crypto because the perception is they don't have a bank account. Well, they probably don't. So they're having their paycheck deposit into Chime. You've all seen the commercials, right? Chime is not a bank, right? It's a fintech platform. DoorDash is recruiting delivery people, and it advertises no bank account needed to get paid. Target offers employees the option to get paid in a preloaded card, like the Visa gift cards we see at CVS and the like. So where I'm going with this is we're not ready to have employees pay people in crypto, but they are in a position to allow employees to have portions of their payroll deposited to an alternative account. If people can have their paycheck direct deposit to Chime, if Target can pay people using a preloaded gift card, then we don't have to worry about how do we report the taxes, right? What is that IRS reporting? Because all the industry is doing is saying, we see this interest in communities of color. We know that they will lack options. And so how do we create tools for companies to be able to get people to direct deposit portions of their paycheck? So we need the tools, and obviously this is a Bitcoin conference. Bitcoin is probably too volatile for it, right? It will probably be a stable coin, but there'll be people who want to direct deposit portions into Bitcoin. So I wanted to share that example of one way the industry can actually start moving us down this path where we can actually have people paid in crypto. There are companies working on this. You know, we have Circle, which is a member of the Blockchain Association with USDC. They're looking at all of these options. Now, moving forward to the Bitcoin protocol. As I said, decentralization was what brought me and a lot of people of color to crypto. Bitcoin was that protocol, right? It was all about getting into Bitcoin. And so I am concerned, though, right? So while Bitcoin galvanized people of color to crypto, people get sticker shock. People see the price of Bitcoin and they're like, ooh, I can't afford 40,000, 60,000. So they go to these altcoins. We call them shit coins, right? So for me, we do not want that. I tell people, especially newbies and normies, that their exposure should be 80-20. So if they have $100, $80 in Bitcoin, $10 in Ethereum, and go crazy with the other $10. So we have to have a whole different conversation about Bitcoin. We have to talk about fractionalization. I tell people they can put Bitcoin on layaway, so that this way, we're not, the price of Bitcoin is not driving them to Dogecoin. Right? We don't want that taxi driver telling us they own crypto, and we ask them, what do you own? They don't own any Bitcoin, own any Ethereum. That's a problem, because newbies and people who are really looking to this as a new asset class opportunity, they need to make sure that their exposure makes sense for the returns that they want. So we have to make sure that as scarcity in Bitcoin gets closer, as we want more people of color to own Bitcoin, even a fraction of a Bitcoin, let us make sure we're sharing with people that they can put Bitcoin on layaway. Now, this one is going to be tough. Right? I assume everybody here owns cryptos. I assume most of you have a cold storage wallet. I tell newbies that as they're getting onboarded, fintechs apps are easiest, right? They already own PayPal, Cash App, or Robinhood. That $10 would give them that taste so then they could go to a decentralized exchange. But as we're seeing adoption in communities of color grow, we have to simplify cold storage, because we need to start having that conversation. So we need a stepped approach, right? Just like we have on-ramps that are off-chain, we're going to have to start having that tough conversation about cold storage. And as an industry, we have to simplify the language of crypto, the language of Bitcoin, and that means that cold storage has to be a part of the conversation. As I shared, I work in Washington, D.C. for the Blockchain Association. The Blockchain Association is the unified voice for the crypto industry in Washington. Members of Congress and regulators are very concerned about crypto. They don't buy the argument about financial inclusion. They feel they heard it before. They heard it from the internet, and they heard it from predatory lenders. So in order for us to show we are different, we have to take steps to actually show we're doing our due diligence. Now, I'm very disappointed Eric could not be here, but I'm glad we were able to talk about some of the strategies to inject Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin into this conversation about the future of work. I want to share a few takeaways. So for industry leaders here at this conference and those participating virtually, the 23% adoption we see in the US was because innovators of color did that hard work. We bootstrapped, we went into our communities. I'm a member, a lot of people should take a bow. There are lots of innovators who have been doing this hard work. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. I do briefings for my sorority. I'm an HBCU grad from Howard University. I talk to HBCUs. So this trend of adoption is good for the industry. So we need to support innovators of color in El Paso, in Detroit, in the Bronx, in Oakland, everywhere where they're actually doing that work, and partner and collaborate, and make sure they have the funding to do the digital literacy, skills training, so that we can continue to grow the industry and we can continue to build the customer base that we all need to thrive. I do want to implore on everyone that this conversation about payroll and paying people in crypto is very, very critical, and we have to start thinking through some solutions. We're also having conversations in Congress about it. So on that note, I will thank you, and let's go crazy, as Prince would say.
Let's go crazy!